It started on a quiet Thursday morning when I noticed unusual activity near the edge of my property. My land had always been clearly marked, with boundaries surveyed and documented. Yet, there she was, HOA Karen, busily constructing a garage right along my property line. At first, I thought it might be a misunderstanding, maybe an accidental encroachment. But as I approached, I could see she was deliberately pushing the structure further onto my land, ignoring the clearly posted survey markers. I took a deep breath and approached her, maintaining calm. "Karen, this area is on my property," I said. "You can't build here." She waved me off, feigning ignorance. "Oh, come on. It's just a few feet. Nobody will notice." I shook my head, realizing the level of entitlement I was dealing with. "I notice," I replied, "and legally you cannot proceed. You are trespassing." Karen laughed dismissively. "I own part of this neighborhood, so I can do what I want." Her smug confidence was infuriating, but I didn't rise to the bait. Instead, I calmly pulled out my documentation, survey maps, deeds, and official county records showing the exact boundaries of my property. I handed them to her. Her eyes flickered nervously for a split second, but then she recovered with a scoff. "This doesn't mean anything. I can appeal this to the HOA." I had anticipated her move. "The HOA has no authority over private property ownership," I explained. "They cannot override your rights, nor can they grant you permission to encroach on someone else's land. If you continue, I will have no choice but to pursue legal action." Karen's smirk faltered slightly, but she refused to back down. Determined to act without giving her time to maneuver, I called my attorney, myself, since I'm a licensed attorney specializing in property disputes. Within a few hours, I had drafted a cease and desist notice, served via certified mail, detailing the violation and the legal consequences if she continued construction. I included photographic evidence showing exactly where her structure encroached onto my land. Karen received the notice and, predictably, she responded with anger and threats. She claimed I was harassing her, that she had a right to build wherever she pleased, and even hinted at filing complaints against me to the HOA. I calmly prepared my counterarguments, highlighting her trespass, potential fraud, and the fact that any structure she completed on my land could legally be removed at her expense. Over the next few days, Karen tried to accelerate construction, hoping that by completing the garage quickly, she could present it as a fait accompli. But I monitored the site closely, documenting every action. I made sure all interactions were captured on camera, and I even had a few neighbors witness her encroachment. The HOA itself was forced to intervene after neighbors complained about her aggressive behavior, but they couldn't legally prevent me from enforcing my property rights. One morning, I arrived early to find her already working on the garage roof. I calmly walked over, motioned for her to stop, and informed her that she was now liable for any damages caused during construction. Her face turned pale as I reminded her that every day she persisted, she increased her potential financial liability. Tens of thousands of dollars in fines, legal fees, and costs for removal. The turning point came when I filed an official complaint with the county. The surveyors were sent in to confirm my property boundaries, and the county issued a stop work order immediately. Karen, faced with undeniable legal documentation, survey results, and mounting evidence, finally realized that her plan had failed. Her garage would have to be removed, and she would be responsible for all expenses incurred. By the end of the week, the garage was dismantled, pieces of lumber and metal removed from my property. I had the county certify that all structures were cleared, and Karen was formally held responsible for the violation. Her frustration was palpable, but there was nothing she could do. Every attempt to manipulate the HOA or exaggerate her authority had been nullified by concrete evidence and legal clarity. The experience was exhausting yet satisfying. It was a vivid reminder that entitlement and arrogance can never override the law. Karen's attempt to overstep her bounds not only failed but resulted in a personal financial loss she hadn't anticipated. Meanwhile, my property remained secure, untouched, and properly respected. Reflecting on the situation later that evening, I realized that preparedness and knowledge were my greatest allies. By remaining calm, documenting everything, and acting swiftly within the bounds of the law, I had neutralized a potentially volatile situation without unnecessary conflict. Karen had assumed she could bully her way onto my land, but legal reality proved more powerful than her delusions of authority. As the sun set behind my property, the landscape returned to its rightful state, free from unwanted construction and interference. The lesson was clear. Ownership is backed not by intimidation or HOA favoritism, but by legal standing, persistence, and careful action. Karen's failed attempt at fraud and trespass served as a stark reminder that no matter how brazen someone may act, the law protects those who know and assert their rights. Peace had returned to my property, along with the assurance that any future attempts at intrusion would be met with the same calm, decisive, and lawful response.